The frontliners make plays. We have seen the support make plays. We have seen a frontliner on a fragger making plays. Nocturnes just appear to be firing on all cylinders.
It is a jack of all trades roster here, and on the high ground, mikasa is trying to fight their way through. But what can you do when there's a Lian being protected by Fernando with their shield up front? Agate does retreat. Engagement might come through, but a beautiful gray shot actually brings so low mikasa, and that's the capture for a second time in a row. Beautiful turnaround. The slay comes through, but it just doesn't matter. The damage has already been done.
Oh, baby. That's why he's the king right there. Chain reaction. Cutting down Terminus, cutting down Inara, it doesn't matter. No one can stand up to the king, especially when he is running chain reaction. And now Nocturnes, they're off to the races once again. What could be the final race of this first preliminary match of the Paladins World Championship.
2 minutes left on the clock. So far, China Honor have not been able to establish a single defense. Big seismic crash comes through, stuns out a few, but it's not enough to save Mikasa's life. And now Inara is forced into a dangerous position. And again, Fuzzy Logic is going for these pincer flanks. With the ruckus, brings 2 down low, they get finished off, and Nocturnes continue to advance.
They've got a lot of great things going for them right now. China Honor, it feels like it's going to be a stretch. They've got 8 seconds before Torvald respawns. They've got a couple of ultimates to work with here. The Guillotine Zin has to find a kill. He launches, but he will miss. Fuzzy Logic with the swift juke to the left.
Dodged beautifully right there, and there's the advance coming through again. Hexafire comes out from Fuzzy Logic. The ruckus finds 2. Bomb came from the high ground. Doesn't need to do anything. Nocturnes push it through with the Immortal despite Hyper Beam. Beautiful coordination, ult management as well. Nocturnes 2-0.
They're smiling. That is the type of win that they are used to in their region. They look prepared. They look flexible. All different types of champions, but still having that Nocturnes flavor. Still picking a Leon, something that we don't really see from a lot of other teams. So they're staying true to their roots while at the same time branching out.
And I love that pick on Serpent Beach specifically as well. It just screams confidence at this point. And it's a good way to start this tournament off. China Honor, well, we saw some interesting plays come out of them at times. A lot of Zin emphasis, not a lot of cohesion, which unfortunately is, I think, more of what we might have been expecting from this team specifically, as they were formed together a lot more last minute. But they now have the chance to have seen what Nocturnes can put together and maybe provide some adaptation for the other side of the bracket.
It's land, man. You got to learn. You got to evolve. You got to adapt. So looking at what they were picking up, there's a lot of emphasis with Torvald, Zin. And you got to wonder if they're practicing a lot with China Dream, if this is going to be something we're seeing from them, if it's eluding, because these are the guys that they're trying to learn, right? They're trying to catch up as fast as they can and learn and adapt. You have to be thinking, those are the mentors, right? The China Dream guys are maybe showing them these strats, how they can execute, how they can make it further on their side of the bracket.
And maybe that reliance on a champion like Torvald as well, that execution threshold being so high with the perfect coordination, could be something to move away from. Go with what's maybe more tried and tested worldwide, what's a little bit more reliable without that execution threshold being so high. Maybe even triple frontline if it comes down to it. Plenty of time for adaptation. A LAN is all about being on your toes. We've got regions from all around the world competing here. Everybody will be bringing their own flavor of OB63, making a delicious kind of mismatched stew of something very interesting when we come down to our finals.
Like we said, this is by far one of the longest, most consistent game states we've ever had to play on. This is going to be a great tournament. Analyst S, what did y'all think about that series?
Oh, well, thank you so much, guys. And I mean, honestly, Nocturnes just, they showed up, man. I mean, you needed them to come out here and dominate, and that's exactly what they did. It kind of messed up your prediction.
Yeah, well, I should say what you would expect from a team that went undefeated for so long. They just haven't been touched by a lot of players, and even now they're continuing that route to keep going.
Yeah, and I was really impressed by their flexibility. I didn't expect them to pull out these blaster champions. They pulled out the Drogos game 1, and it was just absolutely dominating. Fuzzy Logic, godlike, just completely shutting down Honor, and then Sadak playing that BK in game 2. This is a completely different Nocturnes than we've seen in the past.
Yeah.
And the fact that we got to see, and like this was mentioned, Hecate for a long time was the one who was stepping up. He was the one that was standing forefront and center. Fuzzy Logic was slowly but surely getting up there with him, and this time, like that first game, it was all him. That Drogos did so much work early on that it just spread. It gave them that control, and while I think they could have found it otherwise, he was really like he was the spearhead to get that going.
Yeah, Fuzzy Logic just did not expect that. And, you didn't expect the Drogos at the start of HRX here, right? And then just has such a huge impact, but they didn't even really need to bring it out. Moving forward, they kind of just like had their way with them. They could do, it felt like Nocturnes could just do whatever they wanted to do because China Honor just did not seem comfortable at all. That's the vibe I got in that game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, if you're the team that, Virtus Pro that Nocturnes has up next, there's not much that you could pull from that game. You saw a couple champs that they got to play, but you didn't get to see how they performed when they were pressured, when they were, down a point. We didn't get to see Nocturnes at all on defense, but I mean, their offense looked really good.
Yeah.
And it came down to it. I mean, the two words that Vox threw out, like adaptability, cohesion, like that just has to come through. That's the one big thing we saw even at the last LAN. If you can change the way your team plays, if you have enough picks that you can go through and big champion pool, that can turn it around for you, and that's what we didn't see from China Honor there. I expect to see that in the future, but that's exactly what Nocturnes was able to throw out, the fact that they can now flex onto a lot of these things that we haven't seen them play a lot in the past, so being able to bring that forward, that gives them a lot of hope coming into the next few days.
Yeah, but is there not a thought that this was an easier matchup for Nocturnes, and whereas like Virtus Pro, like, I mean, they're obviously it's gonna be way more of a challenge.
The number one
right?
seed,
exactly. So like, in my mind, I look and I'm like, okay, well, it's good that Nocturnes were able to perform the way that they did, but you kind of look at what was on the other side of the stage there, and they weren't really challenged all that much.
Yeah, and hopefully Nocturnes, it's a good warm-up game because when you come to LAN, there's so many things going on around you, behind the scenes, everything that you just can't account for. And getting a game on stage right there where you get to warm up, you get to get your shot going good, you get the comms nice and clear, it's only going to help them moving forward.
Yeah, I'm excited to see this team, throughout the rest of the competition, though. You guys were excited about them, and for due reason, because they certainly showed up here, showed that flexibility. I want to see them do that same thing against VP. Like, that's going to be... If they could do it against VP, then they're legit.
It's a tall order.
Yeah.
But they might be able to get, and they can afford it at
this
point. I think they can do that. I think that's something that I would expect. I mean, VP, like you said, coming in their first seed for all of this, they are the ones that were kind of, not necessarily underdogs going into the last LAN, but at least being able to pick themselves up. Even here, it's kind of expected to see them do well.
Yeah, and I expected a lot from Nocturnes coming into this game, and then they just gave me more. Like, I expected them to do really good, and maybe even drop a game to Honor, but they just looked flawless. The execution was good, the mechanics were there, the comms looked good, the focus fire was very nice.
Yeah, well, there you have it. I mean, pretty brutal matchup for China Honor, but Nocturnes, they are going to be moving on in the bracket. They will be facing off against Virtus Pro. That matchup certainly is going to be an exciting one. Coming up next, though, we're going to have Ninjas in Pajamas versus Renegades, so looking forward to that one. Should be a good matchup, and we're going to break all that down in just a little bit. But for now, we're going to send it over to Latagris, who's down to the stage with Hecate from the winning team, Nocturnes Game.
Thanks, fellas. I am here with Hecate. You just saw him in action, and oh, what a performance it was. Whenever it comes to Latin America, Nocturnes Gaming really is the team that everyone looks to. So how does that feel to represent Latin America here at HRX once again?
Thank you. It's like, I'm so nervous, but it's, how can I say? I don't speak English and I'm nervous, and this is kind of rare. But it's an honor for me and for the entire team to represent Latin America, because we work so hard to maintain our leadership in Latin America. Every single team from Latin America knows us, so we are really proud and honored to be here again. And the entire team, especially me, because I come the last year and we couldn't do even a set. So this is our first win, and it's amazing, This is the first time that Latin America wins here on a LAN event so important against China. That is really good. We also know that they are not the main roster, and we feel bad for them because, for real, we respect them so much. We thought it was going to be more balanced. Like this HRS, I think this is going to be the most balanced games from every HRX or even that we are going to play. But yeah, it feels awesome.
And even though the public isn't here yet, all the players out there in the crowd, they're cheering for you. Everyone was feeling really good about it. And it was quite a dominating win. So even though you were hoping for the win, did you expect it to be that one-sided when it comes to your prep?
Honestly, against this China team that they changed the roster, we didn't know exactly if they were going to be better or worse. So we couldn't expect that. But we truly believe in ourselves with all the practice that we made the last couple months before coming here. We practice a lot against every single team that we know from different regions. We practice every single strategy. We include the the Bomb King, for example, that before we couldn't play it, for example. So, yeah, we expected to have a really huge impact here, but we didn't expect to do a 4-0. That's truly not.
You said it yourself. It's your first victory here at HRX, and I'm sure you're hoping for many more, but that's going to actually do it for us here for this set. When we come back from the break, we will have another one for you, so see you then.
It is all dependent on how well they can actually come together to function as a team through the event.
Hey, let me ask you this here. How do these teams function as far as...
First blood. An enemy has drawn first blood.
But I think about you all the time. Looks like you're changing and all. But why didn't you call? Something in the air, always something in the air. Inexplicable, I can feel it in the air. Can you feel me? Can you feel me? Can you feel me? Do you miss me at all? Do you think about the things we used to do? No, you couldn't stand tall. So why didn't you call? So many years has gone by, but I think about you all the time. Looks like you're changing and all. But why didn't you call? Something in the air, always something in the air. Inexplicable, I can feel it in the air. Can you feel me? Can you feel me? Can you feel me? Can you feel me? Something in the air, always something in the air. Inexplicable, I can feel it in the air. Can you feel me?
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Paladins World Championship as we get ready for our next matchup. We're now joined on That's by Biden. He's brought his dogs.
I brought my dogs.
I love it. And by the way, I just want to, because you gotta say it, you gotta get it out there. Your hair looks magical.
I know. You see, Priscilla did a great job in the makeup room.
Yeah. You're ridiculous. And it's like, you know, you walk into the makeup room, you see him getting his hair done, and then he stands up and he looks like he's about to sell you a used car, and it's just amazing.
It was a literal transformation. Like, I went from, okay, well, this is Bitey, to who are you? Like,
who is this man?
You still look like Bitey.
And then you started talking, and then I knew immediately it was Bitey.
The energy.
Of course, yes. That's very well. I can get you that 98 Cadillac just for you after the show.
You're the 98 Cadillac,
what?
man. Oh, dear. Okay, well, we have an exciting matchup here, but before we get into that, let's go ahead and take a look at the schedule when we get a chance, because we had just seen one of LATAM's finest, Nocturnes Gaming, cut down China Honor to size in pretty formidable fashion. But now it's going to be NIP going up against Renegades, two very well-known brands in esports. Going to be taking the stage here in just a little bit, and excited to see this NIP team, a squad that has tons of experience, and in fact, three of the members on this team won HRX 2017 last year.
That's like immediately starting it off. That's going to be difficult to go up against, and then when you throw in the fact that Renegades originally didn't qualify to come here, this is something that kind of came through. They were added in, and they have a lot to make up for that. I mean, it's the ultimate proving grounds for them. If they make it any further than this game, then that's great for them. And if they don't, then it's not necessarily a disappointment from them, just because, again, they hadn't been here or been original team.
I think what you're going to see with the big difference here is that NIP has been knowing that they're going, and they've been practicing with the intention of, going hard. Whereas Renegades had the position of like, oh, surprise, a team couldn't make it, so you're going to be pulled in to fill, and it's going to be based on how well they were able to practice and get their homework done kind of at the late notice, because it's out of the blue, you're coming in, and I think it's going to be an interesting match.
Yeah, and so, let's go ahead and, show you guys this NIP roster when we get a chance here. I mean, these are names that are very familiar within the Paladins community. Guys like Prudeau, I remember him from last year, seeing his incredible plays at the last event. Bird, Lazy, Bonker, Shippa, this whole team, it's just name after name after name.
Yeah, and Bonker was one of the original MVPs at the last HRX, so he's a real power player out there, and I'm expecting a lot of good things from him.
Yeah, and then you're talking about Renegades here, and Gore, I want to pick your brain on this one here. What can they do? Can they get this win?
I think if they can keep Bird distracted, I actually think that would be a good one, or try to keep Purdue shut down. That's another one that was kind of looked at. He can sometimes be hit or miss as a player. Sometimes he'll show up and it will be insane, and then other times he's almost a non-factor in the game. So depending on where they can keep that control on those two players, I think they could try to bring this game back more into their favor. I think what Bitey had said earlier is actually a lot of this does depend on the draft.
Yeah, and the drafting is going to be kind of the key of this whole event, because we come off of the Masters LAN with this idea of double support and a lot of extra play, and the tanks really aren't always your playmakers right now. It's all about how well you can run that two support setup, and that's kind of where the EU NA meta was previously. Now that everybody's been doing draft refinement and figuring out what works a little better, it's kind of gone back up into the air, and I think it's going to be a real trial to see which region has the best setup. And I think NIP has done probably a little bit more homework in this respect because they've been preparing for this event.
I mean, is there a fair point, right? Like, obviously they have been prepping, so they are aware of what they want to do when they come into this. Can you see any surprises from Renegades?
So I think the big surprise that Renegades might have is really figuring out what they committed to in their practice sessions, because the buck is most likely going to be banned, and Shades was an amazing buck, so it's all going to be about who's flexing where. Can we run the Leanne? Are we going to have great spammers? Renegades wasn't really known for their AoE play, so I think they've been working on it and working towards fixing those problems, but this will be that proving ground to see if they've got a good plan set in there.
Yeah, it's tough to make a plan when you're kind of just like thrown into this.
I feel like that might also give them a little bit of a benefit, because like they might have been preparing maybe for something later, talking about like one of those things you get kind of stuck in. You think, well, this worked last LAN, let's just keep practicing that, see how that does. There's some changes come through, and you're like, well, let's try this up. you're coming into this and you're like, well, we were already practicing all this other stuff that no one else was really touching because it wasn't necessarily us preparing for Worlds, it was just us playing.
Yeah.
If they can do something like that and they pull out something that no one has seen or just didn't expect, that could give them a leg up. So again, it comes down kind of to the drafting phase as to whether or not they've been playing maybe some just off-meta picks.
And I think talent between the two teams, I would say that it's mostly even. You know, there is a little bit of an experience gap. Shady Shades is by far their MVP of the Renegade squad. He's been to every single event. But, you know, Loki, a powerful fragger, figuring out his positions, it's really going to come down to, you know, getting yourself ready for that high-level play and not letting nerves shake you.
Yeah, that's going to be important as well here, right? Because, you know, like, if you're able to move on, if you're Renegades, that's huge, right? Like, that is absolutely massive. You get that W over NIP, move on in the bracket, like, you know, no one had expected you to be here. But it also feels like for Renegades, they have nothing to lose and everything to gain, whereas on the other side, NIP, they're playing with a little bit of pressure there because they have everything to lose here, especially if they lose against Renegades.
And it even comes down further to the fact that North America, I mean, before Renegades was added in, G2 was the only North American team that was going to be here, so Renegades are picking that up. Europe has so far, at least for the past couple of months, and especially at the last LAN, they were strong. They were a much stronger region overall. This is their time to be able to say, look, North America's not out of it just yet. We can still keep up. Still a big, tall order for them, but as long as they can kind of step themselves up, I still expect a lot from Renegades as a team.
All right, well, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say that, you know, what Renegades is going to be bringing to the table is we've had the 3 months to figure out what Europe brought. You know, the big reason why that Masters lane went so poorly is that the meta was better. And, you know, we were wrong with it. You know, we favored a lot of Shaolin, and it just did not match up against that powerful Black. And, you know, it's just moving on from that and figuring out how have they refined the tactics. And we've done a lot of scrims with all these teams, so it's going to be interesting to see if they can pull that towards the table.
Yeah, but, you know, when you talk about roles and you talk about what players are going to try and, like, prioritize here, one player in particular that I do want to highlight is Bird on the support side for NIP. Gore, what are your thoughts as far as this player is concerned, what he's going to bring to this matchup?
He's the brain, right? Like, I mean, he's an analytical player. He knows how to do his homework. He's going to be studying. Like, at this point, you're going to be looking at Renegades, and it's like, okay, well, they haven't been preparing, but, I mean, Bird still going to have at least some information on them. He's going to know it just out of his pocket to be able to keep that up. And he has been, I mean, he was a coach for the first World Championship, so you know that he has that analytical background, that ability to kind of keep that going. So as long as he can continue, I mean, just having that impact, I expect a lot from him.
Yeah, well, I did find out that we actually did get a moment to catch up with Bird and learn a little bit more about this player. So let's go ahead and check that out.
Day one of starting this roster, there was no ego. You know, we had a lucky, like, 2 weeks, that kind of honeymoon phase when we first started off and we were winning everything, and then immediately we just started losing and losing and losing, and that's really what we needed. You know, anytime you make a star lineup or an experienced lineup, that's the best thing that can happen to you, is just to lose done early. Like, you want to lose as much as possible so that everyone just has that feeling of, oh, we're really bad, and then you slowly build yourself up to the point where it's like, okay, now we got this down. Like, we know what to do now.
Always looking, always thinking about what's the next step here is Bird, and we just update for everyone. There is a little bit of just a hold up there as far as players are getting everything all set up and ready to go. We want to make sure everyone's playing on, you know, the best possible situation. So that being said, we're going to have to fill for a little bit longer here. And I mean, I guess while we're on the subject of supports, might as well talk about Stormtroopy, who unfortunately is not feeling all that well.
It's that time of the year, you know, a little bit of the flu going around, and he did get a little under the weather, and it might affect the play, but at the same time, you know, that, you know, as long as you've got the drive and determination, you can usually try to overcome that, but it will be a little bit stiff on trying to feel 100% when you're coming off of a sick night.
Yeah.
There's a certain amount, I feel like, of adrenaline when it comes through you. Once you get on the stage, like, you kind of set yourself up, you're feeling sick, it can help you for a little bit, but it only lasts so long. So the question is, can you close out these games while you have that drive, if the drive is there to begin with? So it's really kind of, how do you come into this mentally setting yourself up? If you're still feeling sick and you kind of let yourself get bogged down, your play is going to get bogged down, your team's going to get brought down, and everything's just going to get muddled.
It feels like the odds are stacked so hard against Renegades here. It's literally the ultimate underdog story if they're able to make this one happen, because you got players who are sick, you weren't supposed to be here, now you're here, you don't have a lot of time to practice, so there's just a lot working against them here.
I would say though that they do. It's not all doom and gloom. It's not like it's full of subs. We're not having a replacement scenario. It is the same squad that participated in the Masters lane, and they did a very good job. They were the only team who took games off of the NA Giants of G2, which my sad team didn't do as well against. But that does go to show that if they get themselves on point and on par, they have the potential to carry these games out. You know, Shades is an amazing player. Loki's come to fruition. Kliku and Ethereal, you know, very powerful tanks, and figuring out and working on what they were struggling with within the PPL season itself, and they've made a lot of progress. You know, they've gotten a lot better overall, and it's just, while they don't have anything necessarily to prove because they're here, it's just the chance to do your best and try to win these matches, because it is their full lineup. They don't really have any major issues other than just figuring out what their draft will be, and Stormtrooper's unfortunate sickness.
When it comes down to it, I think the big word, we mentioned it in the last set, and we've mentioned it in the past, but it's adaptability when it comes down to it. You're at LAN, like you had said during the last LAN, it really heavily favored the EU teams. They were able to come through and change that meta and take it and adapt to it, keep it for themselves, and North America didn't really step up to that. This is the chance to be able to say, like, either create your meta, you are the ones owning it, or we're going to be the ones, okay, you beat us the first game, but this is how you did it. This is what we need to change to be able to do this. And I think Renegades has that. They are definitely experienced enough, especially when it comes down to Shady Shades, to be able to recognize that, be able to tank their team and say, look, we need to change this around. We need to, you know, drop the bonking. Not working well for us, just ban it, make sure they don't get it, and let's see whatever we can do with it. Anything like that. So I think as long as they can keep their heads about them, as long as they like listen to themselves, they do still have a really good chance. That adaptability is the key.
And we both had mentioned about the draft. You're Renegades. You're thinking, okay, because I don't imagine it's going to be a similar draft to what we saw from Nocturnes in China, where everything is kind of like super quickly and just boom, boom, boom. You know, pick in champions, and then you're into the game, on you go. But you're Renegades. Who are you prioritizing for when you start those first couple rounds of the draft?
So, in the North American scene, we've put a lot of emphasis on enjoying a big old Fernando, because as we kind of discovered going through the matches, is that double healer is hurt by auto cauterize, which happens to be on Talus and the Fernando.
And what about for someone like Shady Shades? Do you prioritize him early on, Gore, or no?
I feel like he actually fits right in the middle of the draft. So you get your front lines for the team, maybe a support grab, but then you look for the damage, where he's going to fit into the rest of the comp. Because there's been a lot of times where, like going into the last LAN before the rest of the team had really gotten that a little bit of extra experience, he was the one who was going to be the carry. He's the one who has to lead them in. Now they all have that little bit of extra experience. They're all together, but he's still a strong player, and I still expect to see him step up.
I'd say he's one of their most flexible players, too. He's my old teammate, and I know how powerful he can be once he just has a little bit of time to figure out a hero, master it, and just perform it at that level exactly with perfect execution.
Well, we did get a chance to catch up with Shady Shades as well. Let's go ahead and take a look at what he had to say.
Gotta say, it was pretty stressful playing at that high level consistently for such a long time, and I think that just having a little break was important, because I needed to kind of recharge my batteries and just do anything else that wasn't consistently playing Paladins. I always wanted to keep playing. I never really left the competitive scene in terms of like viewership. I always kept top of it and wanted to eventually come back. I just never knew if I really would, or if I'd have even the opportunity to. There was no guarantees at all, and so I was definitely looking for anything that I could get, but I was definitely open to the idea of a new squad and some new teammates.
Good to hear from Shady Shades there as he gets ready for this game.
That's my old teammate.
It's your old teammate.
That's my old teammate. He's all grown up.
Maybe you should get a haircut like yours, so that this way you guys could just be friendos, best friendos. Just, I love your hair. I'm so jealous.
It's really like fluffy.
Yeah.
You gotta keep it like your little dogs, Your dogs get fluffy and they.
Are we gonna get the headband this weekend at any time?
It'll be a progression, As you get more excited, you get more energy. Maybe the hair starts fraying a little bit, but you put that bandana on to keep yourself under control, and you just bring that energy right back up.
Yeah.
And then you get to sleep in a little more. right? You don't have to worry too much about your looks. You got the bandana.
I'm the coach. You got to get up. The seven-step process. 7 hours of sleep. You go right in. Boom.
This guy, unbelievable.
Always on it.
Yeah, it's actually been pretty fun for me to like get to know everyone, because last year when I hosted HRX for the Paladins part, you know, I was really adamant about it. I was like, yeah, I want to do this. I think it'd be really fun, you know, because I think it was supposed to be just casters, and I talked to Brad, and I was like, hey, let's do this, right? And I remember, you know, meeting all the players, meeting, you know, Shift for the first time, Vox for the first time, seeing these like characters, and really just getting to know everyone. And the Paladins community, the players are all awesome. And then you meet a guy like Bitey, who just transcends all thought for what a player could be. I'm glad you're on the desk.
Well, I'm enjoying being here. We got a little cheerborker squad. They're ready to root for anybody to win. You got Fluff One, and then you got he's the suit wearer. He's got his shirt on.
Okay. He's got to keep it fancy. I respect that. I respect that. All right, guys. Well, we still have some issues over on the stage. So instead of us just filling for God knows how long, we're going to go ahead and send it to a quick break. When we come back, though, you better be ready, because it's going to be NIP going up against the Renegades, and we'll see you on the other side.
Do you miss me at all? Do you think about the things we used to do? No, you couldn't stand tall. So why didn't you call? So many years has gone by, but I think about you all the time. Looks like you're changing and all. Why didn't you call? Something in the air, always something in the air. Inexplicable, I can feel it in the air. Can you feel me? Can you feel used to do? No, you couldn't stand tall. So why didn't you call? So many years has gone by, but I think about you all the time. Looks like you're changing and all.